Hello friends, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365, and today's video is going to be all about collecting physical media in 2019. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like button, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos daily. You can also find me over Twitter and Instagram at Movie Guy 365. Okay, so because this channel is pretty much entirely based on physical media, I touch on movies and that kind of thing, but I mostly focus on 4K, disc, Blu-ray, occasionally digital. But, you know, a lot of times I actually get questions about physical media and, you know, how do we collect it today in 2019? Because it's a much different landscape than we did even 5 years ago. You know, gone are the days of things like Circuit City and those kind of retail outlets. There are still retail outlets that do sell physical media, but it seems to be kind of a shrinking landscape. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for some of us, at least in the United States, to pick up the physical media, whether you're a Blu-ray fan or 4K, even DVD. So I thought I would break down kind of how, you know, to really collect these things in a 2019 digital world. It's a little bit more difficult, but I'm going to walk you through it the best I can. I'm going to give you all my options. So, you know, before I do any of that, as I mentioned, please like and subscribe. You know, this is, you know, what I do on a daily basis. So, all right, let's dive in. So, collecting physical media in 2019 can be a bit of a tricky situation. And you also have to take in the various formats. Now, the formats that we're going to be talking about mostly are DVD, Blu-ray, 3D, and 4K. Now, speaking to 3D, that is going to be an entirely separate video because that aspect of physical media has changed so much, even a year ago. And there's a lot going on there, you know, as far as studio politics go and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to be doing a separate video mostly on the 3D thing and where you can pick it up and that kind of thing, because it is kind of a tricky situation. I'm going to mention it here and there in this video where it pertains and it's relevant, but believe it or not, that's going to be a whole separate conversation. So if you're interested in that one, check that video out, coming very, very soon. All right, so with those four formats in mind, let's talk about what we typically get on a new release day. New release day, most times I would say studios release a movie with something called a slipcover. Now, slipcovers are really, really nice, and they've become something of a collectible amongst 4K Blu-ray collectors. DVD doesn't have them nearly as much, but for time purposes, we're really going to just focus on Blu-ray and 4K here. Yes, the slipcovers are a big thing, and it kind of makes the collection look a little bit nicer. If you want to compare it to something, it's like the old book dust jackets. But they, sometimes studios put out really good effort and put out some decent slipcovers. There's one recently, which I'll post the picture right here, of a movie called The Endless. I think that had a gorgeous slipcover to it. It's a pretty awesome movie. I actually did a review way when I first started this channel, so if you want to look for that one, go ahead. But I think the slipcover is absolutely gorgeous on that one. And of course, then you have more often than not, slipcovers can just have, the exact same picture on the physical case. Now, a lot of times studios will like to do reissues, or even retailers will do reissues, something called pop art, or they'll do something to coincide with the release of another movie. A couple examples I can think of is Deadpool. Deadpool was like Deadpool slipcover versions appeared all over places like Walmart and that kind of thing. And there's some retailer exclusive slipcovers that do the same. I'll touch on that in the individual video or individual section about picking up from different stores. But occasionally, more often than not, these slipcovers, no matter what, if they're the original or updated ones, contain the same movie. It's even the same movie art on the cover. So yeah, I mean, that's something that's been going on for years. A lot of people love to collect the slipcovers. Even if they have that movie, they'll go back. Another interesting thing that comes out, and this is 99% Best Buy's kind of thing, is steelbooks. I love steelbooks. I collect them myself. I think more often than not, they're just so much better than the slipcover. I mean, there's a couple that have been very hit or miss for me. I even bought one movie, believe it or not, just for the steelbook. I hated the movie. I just got it because I really enjoyed the steelbook. But anyway, so yeah, they're just, those are nice things. And more times, I know Target occasionally will do it with a DC animated movie, but more likely Best Buy is going to be the one releasing these steelbooks. They seem to have really kind of, hit the ground running with those. Now, also keep in mind that more times a steelbook is going to cost fundamentally more than your standard slipcover. Typically a new release 4K will be $30. Something Disney releases, pretty much any studio releases a steelbook, it's going to be $5 more for that steelbook. Now, a lot of times these will not go on sale, and a lot of times these things will sell out. So if you are interested in a steelbook, you might want to get it on release day or that week. You know, you don't want to wait too long. Sometimes they do pump out more than collectors are willing to buy. I know Captain Marvel was one recently, but you can still, as of this recording, you can still readily get that one at a Best Buy. But a lot of times they will sell out either that day or within a day or so after, and they will not restock them. So just keep that in mind. Also, another exclusive that happens to hit Blu-ray and 4Ks are something called digibooks. These are not as frequent. These are available most times at Target. They're just basically like a booklet. And I believe the first ones that were introduced were the Disney animated classics way back when. And it's a book, and you know, you'll stick the disc actually inside the book. I personally think they have some of the nicest covers available, even better than best steelbooks a lot of times. But I personally am not a digibook person. I do have a couple here and there. I bought one, last one I believe I did buy was for Avengers Infinity War. I might pick up the Endgame version. But yeah, I don't know. I'm more of a steelbook guy. Books are nice and everything, but just want to make you aware that there are exclusives at Target for that kind of thing. I'll touch back on that in a few moments. All right, so let's talk about the retail stores. Now, these aren't in any particular order, but I'm going to give you some insights and everything. So Best Buy is probably, if you are a 4K Blu-ray guy or girl, you are going to be getting your stuff at Best Buy as far as retail brick and mortar stores. They do have something called in-store pickup, which is very, very useful. You can also, they have an online option you can also pick up. And I generally go with Best Buy for most of my movie retail needs. I'm also going to touch on pros and cons in just a few moments, so just bear with me. Target, good, you know, those are pretty frequent as well. I think maybe a little bit more available than Best Buy's in depending on your country, your region. Walmart also is another good option as far as brick and mortar stores go. And also this one's more of a West Coast, South, Midwest retail chain. We don't have them out east, and that's Fry's. That is also another. I've been to a couple Fry's in the last couple years. It kind of reminded me a little bit of a Circuit City vibe to it, but they do have plenty of physical media and some great sales there. Online options, we have Amazon. Overall, I feel they definitely have the best selection of anything, including any of the brick and mortars like Best Buy. Deep discount DVD or deep discount, discount. They are also an online option. I don't necessarily go to them anymore. I used to a long time ago. I think the prices have kind of bumped up a little bit, and they can't really compete with places like Amazon. Another option, if you want to do online, would be Zavi. Now, Zavi up until a couple years ago or a year ago only had a UK online distribution. Now they do offer a US website, which you can get also a lot of the exclusives, and as I mentioned earlier in the videos, occasional 3D that you can't get anywhere else. And of course things like eBay. I know plenty of people that buy their movies off eBay. The reason I don't necessarily get my stuff off eBay is they're too unpredictable and there's too many factors. You know, you got the seller and the shipping. I mean, it's not a stable environment as far as pre-ordering movies go. All right, so let's talk about pros and cons of each of the retailers. We're gonna start with Best Buy again. Pro is best in-store selection for new releases. They generally, if it's being new released, they generally will have it. I would say 9 times out of 10, they are where you go to on new release day. And they also have a lot of exclusives. As I mentioned, my Steelbook exclusives are their bread and butter, especially with physical media. Being an elite member helps. If you're an elite member, basically it's not something you necessarily pay into. It's kind of like a rewards system. So you're in a certain amount of dollars and you get special perks. And a lot of them pertain to online kind of things, like your free shipping and that kind of thing. Not unlike Amazon Prime, which I'll also touch on that in a few minutes. You also accrue reward points. So for every 250 reward points, you get a $5 gift certificate. I've gotten plenty of those over the years. I've been Elite Plus for many, many years, and I generally get certificates about every other month or month or so, and they're useful. They are useful. They take a little bit of the edge off, and they're nice. So if you ever go buy a TV, you're going to rack up, you know, $15, $20 worth of points in no time. They also do something price adjust. So if you bought something there and then another retail has a lower price, they will price adjust. Sometimes you do it automatically, sometimes you just have to go in store. You can even go, if you're an Elite member especially, I think you have up until 30 days to do so, but you can go in the next week if it's cheaper and get the difference. I've done that many times. I go to Best Buy in store every week. So for me, getting a price adjust is not a big deal. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so also another cool thing, which I'll touch on in this next video about 3D, is 3D exclusives. Most retailers in the States, the brick and mortars, will not sell 3D discs any longer. As I said, I will touch upon this in greater detail in that video, but it's nice. Like at the time of this video, Shazam is getting ready to come out on 4K Blu-ray and at Best Buy in 3D. That is a cool thing. If it's being available in 3D, most times it will be at Best Buy. All right, so some of the cons of Best Buy. Older releases can be hit or miss. Generally, like if you're looking for something and say, hey, I want such and such a movie, more likely than not, you will not find it at Best Buy. They do have an okay selection, but like most retailers, their media selection is shrinking a little bit. So it's not as drastic as, say, Target. Target is just flat out almost getting rid of everything. They're pretty much half an aisle at this point. But Best Buy at least is maintaining some physical media. But it's not great. A lot of it is new release stuff or recent release stuff, I would say, within the last couple of years, or maybe year or so. But if you're looking for a copy of, I don't know, Planet of the Apes, the original, chances are you're not going to find it at a Best Buy unless it's part of a box set or something. That's things where online retailers really come in handy, like Amazon and such forth. And even online, Best Buy does pretty good job of having older stuff. They just don't keep it in stores any longer. I would say this is definitely a major con. So if you're about to pre-order something, or if you want to order something through Best Buy online, their packaging is not the best. I've gotten several damaged, either slipcover cases, steelbooks, forget it, I've gotten dents, plenty of those from ordering online, but their packaging is almost borderline terrible. It's not great. And then of course, if it's something like a steelbook, which is going to be harder to get, the chances of being able to do an in-store exchange is almost minimal at this point. I actually had a deal with a dent in a steelbook during a recent vacation trip. I actually brought it with me, hoping a Best Buy locally would have it. I had to go to 2 different stores to get it, and it's kind of a pain and it stinks, but I know it has to be an option for some people. That's just something you should be made aware of. The pre-order system. Now this gets a lot of confusion. I read online. So what happens is, like when you go to pre-order something from Amazon, you don't pay right away. What happens is you have your billing info and all that. It's already ready to go, and when you get charged upon shipping. Well, Best Buy doesn't really do that. They sort of do that. So what happens is, let's say you want to pre-order. I'm going to use this as an example because it's going to be in a very expensive day. On August 13th of 2019, Avengers Endgame will come out, and also the 4K editions of the first 3 Iron Men, as well as the first 2 Thor movies. So if you're buying those straight up, that's going to run you about $180. That's not even including the Steelbook price adjust. Steelbooks is going to run you about $200, $210. So what happens is, if you place this pre-order, they will charge your card right away, or what you call put a hold on it. And depending if you use a debit card or credit card, and this has happened, to me multiple times. So they put a charge on it, but then it comes off. But then randomly, depending on how far away you put that pre-order in, they'll charge it automatically again. So the problem is, it doesn't, on bank statements, it kind of gets funky there. Like sometimes it'll be off, but doesn't show up in your bank statement, that kind of thing. It gets really weird, and it gets very distracting, especially if you're very, meticulous with your finances and your planning. All of a sudden you'll see, $35 missing, and you have no idea where it went. It won't show up, it'll show up as a hold, but it won't show up as a charge. And that's kind of annoying to me. I know debit cards are treated slightly different than credit cards. I've heard people saying that they've only been charged one time, and then again on shipping. I've also heard people say, I've actually had this happen to me. I typically buy my movies on debit card. then like almost it'll just stay on there, and then it'll randomly drop off, and then a week later it'll just randomly pop on again, and then so you're constantly fluctuating between the cost of the movie and what you actually have in your bank. It's annoying. I don't know why they can't do it the other way, the way Amazon does it. Otherwise, I would pre-order everything from Best Buy. It's just too unpredictable. I like to know where my finances are going, and I don't like mysterious phantom charges just like appearing and disappearing. And I like to pre-order my stuff like in advance. So just keep that in mind. Now, a way around this is if you really want to get a whole bunch of stuff, just buy a gift card. Go to your local grocery store, go to someplace else, get a gift card for that amount, and then they charge it and it's done. You don't ever have to worry about it again. It's not going to show up on your bank statements. It's not going to do anything like that. So just, that's my advice. That's what I typically would do. It's just, charge everything on a gift card. You don't ever have to worry about your own credit card or debit card again. That's for, I would say, higher item orders. So Target, let's go with the pros and cons of Target. Pros, they do have the Digibook exclusives. As I said, if you're a fan of those, this is great. You go there and get Digibooks. Now, I will say, Digibooks typically will sell out the day of release. That's something you should be aware of. Digibooks are very, very popular. I would say arguably about as popular or maybe a little bit more than Steelbooks. And they cost about as much as a Steelbook. There's no real price difference. So typically $29.99 4K disc will run you maybe about $35 for a Digibook. And as I said, I've gone, since I do my weekly shopping videos at all these stores, I've actually gone to these stores on release in the morning and they not be there. They're either sold out or they haven't put them out or something, but they will sell out. Once again, I'll use Captain Marvel as an example. I was seeing those, I think they over-ordered on pretty much every exclusive retail-wise. Those have definitely been gone. But Captain Marvel, I've seen it at several stores, even weeks later. But just be aware, and this happens a lot with the Disney releases, that, they will sell out fairly quickly. Store availability. Okay, this one is another thing. So store availability is tricky. Now, they do have an online inventory system, but I find it to be very, it's somewhat reliable, but somewhat unreliable. It's kind of like your mileage may vary kind of thing. Just be aware. But store availability is okay. This can also, and I'm also going to throw this under as a con when it gets to cons, but they do have mostly new releases. Cartwheel is a great online tool. It's an app. You can get 15-20% off your movies. What it does is some new releases even get it. It doesn't happen very often, and it actually happens a lot with some of the, what we call direct to DVD kind of movies. So this will be 15% off, 10%, 20. I've seen up to 25. But Cartwheel seems to have movie discounts every week. It's worth getting the app on your phone. Doesn't cost you anything. Also, sales are fairly frequent at Target. They're pretty nice. They do actually have I think this week is 20% off all movies, but I've also seen buy two get one free. They have those sales quite frequently, several times a year. So it's definitely worth going for that. Now let's talk about the cons, and there are a few. The media section, as I mentioned earlier, is pretty much gone. It's not gone, but I've been to a Target recently where it was the middle standee and then half a shelf. And I've also been to Targets where it's been the middle standee and just one aisle. Some are still 2 aisles, some are but it seems Target's doing a kind of a reorganizing or restructuring. So if they're going under the knife, which a lot of these stores locally to me are, chances are your media section is going to be shrunk to half or a quarter of what it was. Just be aware that finding older titles is going to be very tricky. I would stick to places like Amazon or Best Buy for that, but just be aware. And also, online release day delivery this is for more of an online component. If you order online, I've never gotten anything that I pre-ordered as a new release on release day. It's always been a day or two later, always. So if you're the type that really likes your stuff on Tuesday, you may want to just go in store, go with a different option. But yeah, release day online is pretty much just, it does, at least with me, it doesn't happen. In-store pickup also is not too great. The recent release of Ant-Man and the Wasp, I actually opted to go for the Digibook on that version. So I placed my order, and it said that it was going to be there. And then when it came to release day, I still hadn't gotten confirmation. I called the store. Hey, where is it? Is it? Oh, no. Blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I never got it at that store, and I kind of missed out on it. That has happened more than once with Target. I don't use them anymore necessarily. I just go in store very early if at all possible. And, you know, you just got to be aware that it can happen. Like, one store will say they have it, one store they say they won't, but if you go in, both will have it, but they don't update their system. It's kind of like one head not talking to the other kind of thing. New titles. This has been a recent issue with Target. So last week I was looking for a 4K edition of a new release, and that was Pet Sematary. Or last week, or yeah, it was last week. No 4K whatsoever. Now this is not just like a, you know, throwaway title. Like it or not, it got if a movie gets a 4K release, chances are there's some studio support behind it. But the fact that Target couldn't even be bothered to carry the 4K disc, Blu-ray yes, DVD yes, featured nice and prominently on the front shelf. No 4K in store. I found that very interesting, but that wasn't the first time recently that that's happened. That's kind of a crappy trend that seems to be occurring over at Target. I don't know what they're doing. But huge releases, yeah, 4K will be all over the place. But it seems like if you're looking for kind of the smaller films that got a 4K release, you know, that could be a problem. So just stick to other retailers if at all possible. Online, you could order it, but you hit those other pitfalls that I mentioned before. All right, let's talk about Walmart. Walmart generally is okay as far as picking up titles go. If you're a fan of the channel, and if you see my Tuesday shopping videos, you know they can be frustrating. So, but I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. So one of the pros I do like is generally they're the cheapest option available. More often than not, this will be even more, Amazon typically gets their cheaper pricing off of things that Walmart does. So that's very appreciated. So if you're wanting a new title, chances are they're going to have the cheapest option. Some exclusives, they're not as good as they used to be. They used to have so much better exclusives, but it seems recently that they've partnered with Funko and animated films. I know that Bigfoot movie, the animated film, Venom was another recent thing. They come with like Blu-ray exclusives that come with little Funko figures, but they used to have really cool cover differences. Also, as I mentioned way at the beginning of this video, you can get a different kind of slipcover, the Deadpool covers, pop art kind of things. Those things will be more readily available at Walmart's. Release day availability. This is the con. If you're like me and you go every Tuesday, Walmart's, it seems nationwide, have been slacking as far as putting their stuff out in a timely manner. I remember when the prequel trilogy, Star Wars trilogy came out and they were coming out on Blu-ray disc. They had those out midnight. It was like 12:01, bam, out. They're all out. Like I remember seeing piles of these things. Now it's just like the person putting them out, it seems to be nationwide, sleeps in and doesn't put them out even that day a lot of times. I've gone, there's one Walmart near me. 2 days later, they still don't have any of their new stuff out. 2 days. That's like unacceptable to me. Look, if you're gonna put it out later that morning, that's the thing. I get it, I understand. But if you're hitting rush hour to go home for the day and that stuff's still not out, the store needs to work on that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's definitely an issue there. And I probably should have listed that under a con. Also, over pro, if you are a DVD fan, this is probably your store. They carry, I would say this one carries more DVD than any other store, maybe next to Target and Best Buy. I see a lot of DVD, and there's also a lot of those DVD exclusive movies. The ones that are just, not so much, not only are they direct to video, they're like DE level movies. These are made basically with your iPhone or your camera, but they still get releases at places like Walmart. This is the best option. Sometimes Best Buy occasionally will carry one. I never see them. I keep an eye out for them, even though I don't personally collect them. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. All right, so now that we're done with the brick and mortar stuff, let's talk about the online. Pretty much the only one I'm really gonna talk about is Amazon. As I mentioned, you can still buy things from places like eBay, Zavi, Deep Discount, but Amazon's really the most relevant. But I will say for like places like Deep Discount, they do occasional sales, which are really nice. eBay, also look out for those coupons, 15, 10, 20% off your order. Those do pop up, but they're not a consistent, predictable source. So just be aware of that. So talk a little bit about Amazon. Availability is definitely a pro for them. They pretty much have any and every title. Now, there are a couple pitfalls there. Speaking of, which I'll touch on it in the con part, But yeah, also a Prime is absolutely essential if you want to make the best use of Amazon, because you will get dinged on the shipping. Shipping can be brutal on Amazon. So just be aware that I would be contingent, if you're going to exclusively go from Amazon, try to be a Prime member. It's really going to be worth it. Price match. They do a good job at price match. Not as great as they used to. It used to be like they were completely on it. And then there was a lull maybe about a year or two ago where they were just slacking completely on it. You'd have to actually contact them to get a price adjust. It seems to have gotten better. It's kind of almost to where it was before in the beginning. So that's really a nice thing. Also, release day ship. That's nice. And once again, that's contingent mostly on Prime. I very rarely get a new release from them the day after release day. But what kind of frustrates me, just as a as a YouTuber, is I like to be able to review my stuff early, and a lot of times I don't get my Amazon stuff until well after dinner. So that's kind of a little bit frustrating. Cons, as I mentioned, not worth it without the Prime membership. You definitely want to get Prime, otherwise the shipping will just pile up. At that point, you might as well just gotten Prime and get the digital content with it. It's worth it. It really is definitely, even though they keep price hiking it up. So this is kind of, as a collector of 4K mostly, I order a lot. And I typically get a lot of my harder to find stuff from Amazon. But I have a movie currently, it's a well-known movie by a well-known director. And it's a 4K release, brand new 4K release. Today, Monday, I still don't have a release date for this movie. That means unless it changes today, I will not get this movie on release day. So I'm gonna have to look for it in brick and mortar tomorrow. That stinks. It happens not frequently, but enough to be annoying and noticeable. So just keep that in mind if you are, if you're getting some more of the obscure stuff. Also, Disney and Amazon have had this years-long thing going on. And basically, if you can't get stuff at retail, if you are in a part of the country you can't get stuff at retail, you have to order from Amazon. Okay, not a problem. But if you want a Disney / Marvel / Star Wars / anything Disney related, you can't pre-order most times. You can pre-order any other studio, any other film, but for some reason there's this rift going on between Disney and Amazon that's been going on for years. And you can't pre-order, like right now, today, in July, try to pre-order Avengers Endgame in 4K. It'll just say title unavailable. Occasionally a tiny window will open that people can get in. It doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen very often, but you can do it. Just if you are a Disney / Marvel Star Wars fan, just be aware that when it does go for sale, it'll either be the day of or that day, and they will have limited stock because there's so many people that are just gonna rush to buy it. You're better doing an online Best Buy order, in my opinion, if at all possible. I know people in Canada can't do it. There's certain restrictions in Canada and the UK and so forth. But yeah, that's kind of where that is. It's a weird thing. Nobody's ever really been able to explain what it is. There's theories out there. You can look for them online. Places like Blu-ray.com definitely have some thoughts on that. But yeah, so that's pretty much gonna do it. But you're probably asking, what do I personally do? I get most of my stuff from Best Buy and Amazon. Those are my two go-tos. I get my steelbooks from Best Buy. I get a lot of my stuff from them, but also get some of the harder to find stuff in like this coming week. There's two movies, Pan's Labyrinth by Guillermo del Toro and Moon starring Sam Rockwell. Those are both listed as online only orders, but then if you go tomorrow on Tuesday, it could shift to in-store. That can be frustrating from a planning standpoint. But yeah, so typically those movies I order from Amazon, as I mentioned earlier, that I don't have a release date for the one. And that's frustrating. I don't like that uncertainty, and especially if it's not in store. So yeah, I'll be looking for them, but that can be kind of a thing. Yeah, so and also because I do want to support retail continuing formats. So if it's just a regular movie, no exclusives, just any movie of the week, I will throw Target and Walmart business. I like to make sure that there are people that still buy this. I'm just one guy. I know I'm not, you know, expecting to make any huge difference, but I still want to show my support. So I mostly do that because I travel every Tuesday and do the shopping video. It's not like I'm going out of my way to do it. I think if I wasn't doing the shopping videos, it might change a little bit. But I also go to Target for their occasional exclusive, and I also go to Walmart for once in a blue moon, something that they have. But I like to show them that support. So that's pretty much going to do it. Let me know in the comments if this video has been helpful to you in any way, shape, or form, and what do you do for collecting physical media in 2019? All right, so please, in the meantime, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. I put out videos every single day. So until next time, this is Adam with Movie Guy 365. I will see you at the movies.